I would say things like, and I would write these down. I've been writing diaries since I know about writing. I always have something to write on. So I could actually look these up. Or I would write things like, I will never feel regret. And things like, um, you know, do it right once.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because for me, those teachings or lessons have it's been like I haven't needed to tattoo them anywhere physically because they're like ingrained in who I am and in what I value about myself. And whenever I've come to the toughest places or to make decisions that are far beyond anything that I've ever thought I've had to make, then suddenly these things come back and I remember this is who you are. So that is what I've held on
Mm-hmm.
in the toughest of situations. My music is a reflection of that.
Hola, welcome back to Ellas. I'm your host, Brenda Hernandez Jaimes. Thank you for joining me on another inspiring conversation. And thank you for being here and listening to Ellas, which is a podcast dedicated to amplifying, empowering Latinas who are living their professional dreams and creating an impact through their work to our communities. And with the purpose of inspiring our future generation to continue making their own dreams a reality. You can continue supporting AS by listening, of course, and subscribing wherever you listen to audio, as well as leaving a review, letting us know what you think of these episodes. And if you're watching through YouTube, hit the subscribe button and the bell to get notified every time we publish a new episode. And for episode 52, I'm really happy because I've been an admirer of today's guest, and listening to her music and having her here on Yes really comes a full circle, as I was telling her earlier. And I'm honored to present Alea. And Alea is a progressive and pioneering artist, delivering messages of love, connection, and Latinx empowerment. Her original compositions summon lush, vibrant landscapes from La Guajira, Colombia, to Bronx, New York. Buttery vocals, holistic guitar conversations, and riveting sax solos evoke a tropical wave according to Cultura Colectiva. Alongside performers Sinue Padilla Isunza, Franco Pina, and Berta Moreno, Alea delivers a high energy program with unforgettable, deep rooted groove, seamlessly blending cumbia, vallenato, ranchera, jazz, and pop. Alea connects a diverse soundscape with New York City edge. Once you listen to her music, get ready to dance and sway to an infectious, soulful Afro-Latin sound. A Berklee College of Music graduate, Alea has shared the stage with well-known and Grammy Award-nominated winning artists such as Mireya Ramos, Smarty, Toto La Momposina, Nela Rojas, and Sergio Mendoza, Montoya, and Gregorio Uribe. This versatile artist has given stunning performances in places and festivals like Listen to Women Online Fest, Saldremos Adelante Fest, hosted by Dr. Crápula, Joe's Pub, Kimmel Center's La Noche, Music Fest, Tito Puente Latin Music Series, the International Literature and Culture Fest, and Worcester Mechanics Hall. The Colombian born and raised artist from Barrancas, La Guajira lived in Boston during her studies at Berklee College of Music and was recognized in 2016 by the city of Boston for her contribution to Latin music. After making her move to New York City, Alea successfully founded her Indiegogo campaign for her 2021 album, Alborotada, rooted in feminism and Latinx empowerment. Her recent singles, Alborotada, Tú, Solo Tú, and Échale Sal have been highly praised by Marisa Arbona Ruiz of NPR's Alt.Latin, Victor Javier Solano of Noticias Univisión 41, Tenemos que hablar, RCN 24 Hours, Cultura Colectiva, and La Banda Elástica. Her newest release was also selected to be part of Las Colombianas editorial Spotify playlist. This tropical cumbia-inspired music with a twist of finesse and odd meters has charmed audiences of all kinds because it is the celebration of being different and a new definition of Latin alternative. So please join me in welcoming Alea. Hola, Alea.
Hey. Hola, Brenda. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, and for commenting and sharing all that background about myself and my journey in music. It really is beautiful to be contacted by someone with so much purpose to touch other people's lives. Thank you, Brenda. It's an honor to be your guest today.
Thank you, Alea. And, like I was commenting, or when I was telling you earlier before, our recording is that your music has really given me so much happiness in moments of sadness, especially during this pandemic. Obviously our emotions are like at high level, so we feel everything, especially me. I'm a very emotional, sentimental person.
Same.
So, right? Like right now, I feel like tears are coming up because when I feel like I am lost, I just put on your music, like Aire Guajiro, and I was like, okay, I listen, and it just like pulls me back down. It's like, okay, you know what? You're be grateful. You are living and breathing. You have health. You get to do something that you're passionate about, and I'm like, and that's what your music does to me when moments of like when I feel like I'm lost and I'm like, I need to be grounded. So thank you.
That's so beautiful that you share that with me and with everybody, because it's like I was telling you, for me, the when something like that happens with my music, it means much more than I feel like maybe for others, just for the sake of not making music for that. I've tried to be brave in making my music, and when I mean that, I mean taking the risk of being different while doing it, and taking those risks of not making music for others, or to be I don't know, labeled in a certain way. Not because I don't want my music to get out there or to be with more people. I love that,
Yeah.
but what I mean is that it's not as commercial as other things are. And I work in sync, so I know what that looks like, and it really we make it with so much passion and so much tailoring, and there's so much behind it,
Yeah.
especially you were just talking about Aire Guajiro, which is a really personal song for me. It's one of the most personal songs I've actually ever put out there, and especially because it touches a part of my life that I've tried to heal, and that I've also tried to find a way to to give it more space in my life. So when you tell me that story, it makes so much worth it. It
Oh,
just makes my day. I'm here like, okay, we gotta keep making this music.
you gotta keep making it. And I love it and I appreciate it. And I really hope that our listeners, after, finishing to listen to this conversation, go and play your music, especially Aida Guajiro, because it's amazing and beautiful. And Alea, I'm really interested because you just mentioned a lot of things that have given me more insight of who you are as a person and as an artist. So I want to go deeper into that. Like, who is Alea? Who really is that, soul, that spirit that really creates and wants to connect and like inspire, your listeners through your music?
I think Alea, myself, hello. My name, Maria Alejandra Jimenez Gonzalez. I love saying my name because my birth name is really special to me, as well as my artist name. I chose it for a reason. But going back to my birth name, it was very special. It was the name, of course, my parents gave me, and it has my last names, which have that's a whole other story right there,
Yeah.
where those last names come from and why those two last names came together to make me and my sisters and etc. But it really comes back to where I grew up and the influences growing up in a land that is so magical and so bizarre. Everything at the exact same time. So I feel like I'm a bunch of contradictions, and at the same time I am a mix of everything that has gone on, just like everyone right now at this point. I feel like we're all at a point where we can kind of step back and see all those incongruences and things that make us and unmake us, make like and really find what's there. And this concoction, Maria Alejandra, comes from La Guajira, which is a desert in the north coast of Colombia. It's a peninsula that actually sticks out into the Caribbean Sea. And it's a very forgotten place. Not many people know about it. You could ask people, they'd be like, where is that in Colombia? And I'm like, yeah, it's part of Colombia. It's actually like closer to Venezuela, so people can confuse my accent from there as well. And even more, I grew up speaking English because my dad worked for a mining company, and that mining company was owned by Americans and then sold to Brazilians and South Africans and Australians. And, it's been going on for a while. But growing up speaking English made you very weird and made you kind of strange amongst your family members. I mean, like extended family, especially in a little place where you get all these opportunities, but at the same time, you lack so much. But you can't not feel that, right? Because around you, there's so much more that is lacking.
Yeah.
40 minutes away from where I grew up um, was my grandmother's house and her town. My grandmother passed away last September 2019.
I'm sorry
And
for
my
your
grandfather
loss.
followed. Thank you. It's okay. And my grandfather passed away March of 2020. So it was like a little bit fast. It was a little sudden. But you know, a thought that I think will explain things much better is my grandma, died without knowing what it was to have permanent electricity or like, clean water 24/7. That's something that still blows my mind still thinking about it, and the fact that I grew up um, with those privileges, being 40 minutes away from her. So it was a very strange thing growing up with that much awareness, understanding these things, understanding that my grandmother was a woman of so much strength that I to this day wonder how it got in her mind, to be so strong, so self aware, so independent, so conscious about her surroundings and about values. For someone that didn't have much, what she had it very clear, you know, honesty, being true to your word, being completely transparent. That's like something that in my family is sacred. So I grew up with those values, and my dad is like that. He's like that. What you see is what you get.
Yeah.
Is this human that is exactly that honest and that beautiful and that like calm, and is there's a lot there that unpacks while you go and go through the albums. But going through what they went through from not having much and then building this entire beautiful family where her proudest thing was to say that every one of her kids graduated, is married, none have divorced it. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
But it's interesting for her and her values, and for everything that she was, she stood by it and died with that, and really left a huge legacy. Her and my grandfather Mario Jimenez, Alida and Mario, which I actually mentioned in Aire Guajiro. um they both left a huge legacy in a little town called Barrancas, La Guajira. Now, I was baptized there. I was born there. It was a beautiful place. I still love to go back. I want to describe a little bit more to you guys what this is
Yes.
like growing up in a place that is like tropical, but at the same time a desert. Right there underneath the equator, so it's like really hot, but the breeze is really fresh, and so it's not hot like Barranquilla, like sweaty, like it makes you like you're gonna die. No, it's like fresh, but it's really hot, so stay under the shade. And then there's a lot of cactus and like small trees. There's a lot of goats. There's a big community, indigenous community called Los Wayu, who have survived 400, 500 years of displacement, slavery, all kinds of mistreatments, but at the same time, such a strong, resilient community that still thrives and that changes and that has adapted through the times, um, to what life has braced upon them. So for me, all of that has a really big place in how I write and what I write about. And at the same time, the topics is of what I value, I guess. My mom, she comes from Medellin, so she's from the mountains. She comes from a very developed city called Medellin. um, Her mom died young. Her dad was not around much, but she has like the most beautiful family. They're all super cool, and I grew up very close to them as well. Being so far away in distance, it was about a 15-hour drive. And how that was like such a big part of my life, being in two places at the same time, is exactly how I do my music. So it's tough to put it into words, but that's what I mean by incongruences and things
Yeah.
that are completely contrasting,
Hmm.
is the desert and the mountains. And then there's also like the music of the coast and the music of the mountains, and the way that people act in the coast and the way that people act and behave in the mountains, their celebrations in the coast and in the mountains, and all of that is part of who I am and what I value. And at the end of the day, it's just the result of all of that is music, like Aire Guajiro, that has accordion, that has a guitar, that is has a guitar that is thriving in some more intense harmonies that you would usually find in a vallenato, and that has another proposal of melodies that are a little bit more pop, a little bit more modern, but are still trying to honor the provincia, those provincial sounds that I grew up listening to. There's so much there to unpack, but let's just keep going.
Oh, yes, there is. And I love it. So, starting from the beginning, Alea, so, you grew up, were raised speaking two languages, right? And you were saying that your family, not your nuclear family, but from outside of it, were very maybe not understanding of it. So, let's go deeper on that. And I want to know how you were able to live in both worlds, both just take it all in, embrace it, and as well as hearing what you're saying and sharing. Your grandmother was so proud of that. All her children were, university graduates, and you know, I imagine they were. Correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, like maybe not creative, but like I want to see how you were growing up in this like two worlds, and then also discovering your love and passion for music, and just mixing those two congruencies in melding it into one, and really following that passion that you're doing now.
I think I was given a lot of space, and that's something that I really thank my parents for, is the amount of activities and the space that they gave me to create. I guess since I was very little, I was always very hyperactive and just talking. I talked a lot. Apparently, that's everybody's thing. It's like Maria Alejandra talks so much, so I can only imagine how annoying that must have been. But I think I just had so many questions, and till this day, I'm one of those people that just asks a lot of questions. And for me, it's a way of getting to know my world and then figuring out how to express all of that. So thanks to that, I was giving that space to dance, to paint, to act, to sing, to um, do sports, to do what I love to do. And thankfully, I think my mom and my dad just, they came from such a tough background that for them it was really important that their kids maybe didn't go through the exact same thing. So we all got a bit of that. Now everybody in my family is a little creative in their
Yeah.
own way. My mom loves to paint, to do quilting. I loved to find her, like she would do like sketches of like nudes, and she did like such beautiful work growing up. She always took like arts classes, so I've always loved that about her. Like even when she was like, she took them young, but then she took them also like older, and she would like keep going to these things and creating, and that always inspired me to like keep going. And then my dad as well, he loves just doing his work, and he was always very very attached to music in a way that I understood how attached he was to music. He's a melomano, how we call in
Yes.
how we say in Spanish, which means very I don't know, obsessed. I don't think obsessed with music is the way to say it. It's just
Music
very knowledgeable.
lovers. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
But
just
yeah.
collected a lot of
Yes.
music, And that time you really had to collect it. It's not like, I just have a library of 2000 songs. It's like he had physically that many albums, probably, and LPs, and a lot of knowledge there. So he always saw that I was extremely connected to it. I would always be rummaging through his stuff, and then getting into trouble for it probably. But I loved it. They had these this he had this huge music player that had for 3 CDs, and I loved just picking 3 CDs and hitting random so that it would choose a different song from the CDs. And wow, just remembering that it's one of those things that like really that you really treasure on. So with all of that space to create, to do, well, there was nothing else to do but to express everything, and those things that I were feeling were in a painting, and I was horrible at painting, but it was a good therapy.
Yeah.
and and as well, and dancing was, I think if I weren't doing music, I'd definitely be a dancer, like a full-time intense obsessive dancer. I don't know how that didn't happen. I'm still questioning how that didn't happen, because I think because I started dancing before I could talk. I think it was
Okay.
a very big part of who I was growing up, and today is still a big part of myself, but maybe more in a just relaxing kind of a way,
Yeah.
not as intensely, I guess. And of course, in my performance, I dance as well, so it's part of that. But I think growing up, it was really important to create choreographies and to like constantly be asking my friends to come back me up, and to like do all these like little sketches together, and make an entire choreography to the Aqua album, because just had to be done. Selena was also, a big part of that. And I think that really was my escape to
Mhm.
absolutely everything. I could spend hours completely creating music, creating, sorry, choreography, or painting, or writing, and it was just something that, I don't know, I just got lost in a lot.
Which really interests me now, Alea, because so you were saying that dancing was, I guess, your first passion. It was like in you, right? It was like in your spirit and tied to it. And then you went to college, for studying music in Boston. So it's this. I'm interested. What made you make that decision? I was like, I'm going to Boston, gonna refine my skills and just go for it, and putting dancing to I mean, it's part of your performance as an artist, right? But it's not 24/7 as it is with music.
Yeah, exactly. I think with dancing, well, there were a lot of things that happened. I
Mm-hmm.
got an injury when I was about 17, 16, and then I had to wait it out. And then when I tried to go back, it was like really hard to get your body to do what you used to do when
Yeah.
you've been away for a year. And there was a lot going on there. But I wanted to share a little bit more that I think my parents loved that I did all of that, but they were also really scared about all of that. So they weren't like, "Oh yeah, let's support her to go do music." It was more like, "Hey, so why don't you, think about something else? It would be amazing. Just keep it as a hobby. It's great. Makes you such a beautiful human. Could you study, something a little bit more, that'll give you a future or something?"
Yeah, a
My
lawyer.
parents are cool like that. They're like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying no, but could you, do something a little bit more safe with your time? So I was encouraged to something else, and I did. I studied communications in Medellin. I actually decided to stay in the country because I felt like I didn't know Colombia as well as I wanted to. I felt like I'd always been in this little place, but I'd never known like the rest of it. Like I only knew
Yeah.
a little bit. So, and also when I mean know it, I don't mean like be in it. I mean like, grind in it, be in the streets in it, know the people in it, know where to go and where not to go, know, everything about your
Yes.
city. And communications really opened my eyes to a huge part of history, politics, Colombia's developmental state in every era, everything. So it was a really big part of my life for about 4 or 5 years. And then at some point I realized this is great, but I actually really just want to do music. And during all that time, I never stopped doing music. I had a band in Medellin, my own band, my first band. It's called Delirare. It was more of a collective, I feel. It wasn't like my band and they backed me. It was like we were really a band, which
Yeah.
was really cool. It was like that experience that I'm really happy I had, you know, because we were we all felt that connection to go and
Mm-hmm.
rehearse 2 times a week and to write songs together and to perform. And our shows we were very underground band. So, but it was cool because our shows were always full because people really wanted to go to our shows because they were like niche things. So it was
Ooh.
cool. It was a really cool experience. I loved my life in Medellin. And I met the most amazing people. And there I was super encouraged to follow music even more. I started studying jazz because I started realizing I would do something with my voice that I didn't know, which was
Mm-hmm.
called scatting. But I didn't know it was called scatting. I just liked improvising with my voice because that was what it felt, what for me felt like my first instrument, like my true instrument. I studied piano growing up. I studied guitar. I studied flute, but I don't know. It just they never stuck for real.
Mm-hmm.
And the voice was something that I felt was a whole nother world in music. And there were no music lessons, no voice lessons where I was. So to get voice lessons, I had to trade a bunch of stuff up. My mom was very upset. But, being how cool she is, she was like, "Ah, fine, let's do it." So, because I was very persistent. So I said, Mom, instead of going to like this place on vacation, could I just stay at my aunt's and take voice lessons in
Mm-hmm.
the city? So she would let me, go for like a month to my aunt's place for vacation and take a lesson a month, which
Mm-hmm.
for me were like, I was super intense. Like, you could imagine me like one of those really intense kids that's like, oh my God, to go to my voice lesson. I was super like thrown in about it. And I loved it because then it became like this thing where I was learning my voice when I was studying math or physics, trying to pass chemistry and doing all these things. So voice was something that really started like kind of creeping.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like my little secret because it was something that was so I was not like dancing was something that I was just used to. I was good at it since I was very little, so it was always there,
Yeah.
and people would know me up for it. But when I started singing, I was very shy about it. Shy in a way that like I can't explain. Like I got into my first contest, which I wasn't really trying to get in a contest. I was more so trying to get on a stage because I love
Yes.
the stage. So for me, the stage is a very sacred place. And this was something
Mm-hmm.
that I wanted to get access to. So I had to, get into this one festival, the only one that they do in the place where I grew up, because there were like 1,500 people. That's like it. So can you imagine this like 13-year-old kid auditioning, was super out of tune, but singing with all her heart out. And they're like, I think, no, actually, I auditioned, I think 2 years before and I didn't get in. Yeah, that was the story.
Oh,
And then I auditioned the third time and then I got in.
yes.
But I was so nervous. And all the other kids seemed so pro. And the reason why I think I'm telling this story is because that's when I fell in love with music. Is
Mm-hmm.
I think Kelly Clarkson is going to be super flattered. I was singing a Kelly Clarkson song.
Which one?
A moment like this.
Ooh, yes.
And I freaked out hours before the show. I was not going to sing. I couldn't get myself on stage. I was just bawling, crying like there was no tomorrow. And a teacher of mine that really believed in me. Those don't come as often as they should.
Mm-hmm.
And he was kind of passing by. He wasn't a permanent teacher at the time, and he was just there, and I just really connected with him. And he was actually one of the first to give me voice lessons. This is before the voice lessons, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just jumping back and forth here, so
I
stay
love it
here.
though.
So he actually, like really inspired me to sing, and he was like, "You have to do it, blah, blah." And I, being a drama queen that I am, I just like, no, I can't do it. So I just went home. But I have this other side of my life that I can't be a drama queen, and that's my mom. My mom will just
Yes.
be like, I bought you the dress, I bought you the boots, the hair is done, you're getting on stage. And I'm like, no. And she's like, yes. So I love that. I love that. I love that she never let me be like that, you know, like like so spoiled. She was like, "Excuse me,
Like, no, I paid for everything. Suck it up and go and sing.
get on stage. What are you crying about? You're 13." You know, she's like, "Girl, you don't know." So I love that. She was always, you know, always bringing me back down to earth, and I sang, and it was the most. I can't explain that first step I took on stage because I remember it like it was the most miraculous movie thing ever. This is Hollywood stuff you can't make up, you know? I like stepped
Yes.
on that stage and I connected in a way that the entire crowd was going insane. And here's me have had I had had the worst rehearsals the entire week. And everybody all the other contestants were making fun of me. So I was really like cooped up into feeling that I
Mhm.
couldn't do it. And then finally when this happens and like there's like standing ovations, I'm like, wow, like I did that. I could wow, we this is really cool. More than that, we connected.
Yes.
The audience and I connected. I and the audience. Like it felt like this one thing. And that is how I got hooked into music. So years later, studied communications. Parents were not so cool about they were like, "Oh, so now you really want to do music? Are you sure?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I ended up auditioning to Berkeley because an aunt heard on the phone that there was some American college doing their first time auditions in Bogota, and I should audition. And I was like, nah. But I did, and I passed. And somehow I was offered to come, and that is still a mystery to this day. I auditioned with an original song, and here I am in New York, 8 years later.
I don't think it's a mystery though, Ella, because they saw something in you, right? And they saw something, I believe, from what the audience first saw you when you were 12, 13, right? And that you connected with them.
Yeah,
I imagine that like they saw that talent, that light, and they're like, we need her here. So, you know,
hopefully.
no, I believe so. And because you shared this amazing story. And so doing that move to Boston, share with me what were the emotions like? What were the feelings, the lessons that, obviously, you were telling us that you were in Colombia in your little town, but then you went to, really experience, through communications being in Colombia and experiment, like really living in the country, but then deciding to doing that in another country. Were you accompanied by your mom, your dad when you were alone? So, you know, as a young woman living through this, learning your craft, like
Yeah.
how was it? How was that a
Scary.
journey?
This is horrible. I cried the entire plane ride.
Oh.
Now, listeners are gonna think I'm like just such a crybaby, but like, no, guys, this is you have to get like what this was. I left a lot, and I
Hmm.
never wanted to leave Colombia, but I felt like Colombia wasn't offering what I needed at the time, and
Hmm.
I took courses in other colleges. I tried to go into university for music there as well, but it just wasn't clicking for me, and I couldn't, the rhythm and what I saw the courses were offering was like this isn't what I want to learn.
Hmm.
And I just didn't even know where to go. I honestly took the Berkeley thing cuz I just didn't know what else to do at that point. And it was kind of like deciding to jump and not knowing where the you were going to land.
Yeah.
So for me, that was why I was crying the entire
Hmm.
plane ride. Personally, I had left a boyfriend,
Hmm.
that I was super in love with 4 years, and I was like, "Oh my god, I left him, Jesus! What did I do?" you know, I left my band, my family, who I was so close to, and who were backing me through this entire thing, and it was like a lot of pressure to prove a lot of stuff that I didn't even know I was gonna be able to
Yeah.
prove. It could have all just blown up in my face completely, and I don't know. It just really showed me that I had a lot more garra,
Hmm.
explaining that, a lot more claw than I knew I had. And that I had a lot of strength, literally, to do, to sustain, to go through things that were really really hard. And wow, that just like, when I think of those first years, I don't think I remember a month where I never thought, I think I should go back. I thought about it a lot,
Mm-hmm.
when things were like out of control, or where I felt like maybe this isn't it. There was a lot of doubt, but there's always that little light, that one that came from when I was 13,
Mm-hmm.
that one that accompanied me to Medellin, that one that's like always been there. Even when I auditioned, that light was like always there, and it's like, no, girl, you're good. Breathe. It's gonna be okay. And I've been trying to listen more to that. And that's how I came to write Alborotada, actually. Um, because I stopped the complaining, and I just decided to start being more in connection with my instincts, and with my purpose, whatever that is. I mean, that could be so many things. And let's not even get into purpose, okay? But like, whatever purpose and success are, don't worry about it, everyone. It's okay. You can make it up. So anyway, the point is, it really got me into connection with what that was for me, and to answer the really hard questions,
Mm-hmm.
stay, come, go back, finish school, apply here, apply there. And the answer was always one day at a time, you know just one day at a time. And one day at a time, I've been able to kind of construct my life to
Mm-hmm.
what it is today. I live in the Bronx, New York, with the person I love, who's also my producer, and who has a 15-year-old kid, which is such a tough thing to do. I'm 20. Girl, I'm 30.
Oh, I
I
thought
was
you were actually
about to
kidding.
say 29.
I mean, you do look 29. I
Thank you.
thought you were in your
Thank you.
20s, but no one has to
No,
know.
girl, I'm 30. And it kind of, I if I even tell you, last year was so intense. But I didn't even get to celebrate my birthday last year, so that's why in my head I haven't like turned yet. But I'm
Right?
30.
I feel like
So
this year is like we can forget it and we're like a year younger.
everybody should
Yes, everybody.
just be blocked. so so the whole thing with really following your gut, and
Hmm.
and going further than you can think you are. I don't know if it was a question of dancing or music. It was kind of a question of being
Yes.
and doing, and really being present in those moments. And that's how that came to happen. Because I've asked myself, how did I not end up being a dancer? And
Hmm.
it was because the small steps have taken me to this part. It's not because I didn't want to be a dancer. I still, in my heart, want to be a dancer, like professionally. Like, I dream about being a ballerina every so often. But I think it's more than being a ballerina. I think it's this deep sense of expression and connection, and having these messages that I feel are important to keep, saying, writing about things that have been coming since I was, so and so age. So yeah, I don't know. I think I totally deviated from your question.
No, I love it. The lesson here was like not going, not trying to run when you're just enjoying the journey of one step at a time and really following that gut. I feel like a lot of us, we're so focused on the end goal that we want to run, right? And we don't enjoy what we're learning in the present, the people that we're surrounded with, and the lessons that they're going to give us. So when we're ready for that new opportunity, we can really take advantage of it, right?
Yeah, embrace it.
And I just love that because me, when I was 20 something, I wasn't like what I am today. I wanted to run. I wanted the future now. I wanted, to do it. And now I'm looking back, I'm like, no, I should have enjoyed my time in Mexico City with my family. Now that I'm not there, now I'm enjoying this the journey of one step at a time. And Alea, you mentioned that you had to leave your love, you had to leave your band, you had to leave so many people, and like just with that pressure of demonstrating everyone and yourself that you were gonna make this happen, your dreams happen, and really become an artist. And I feel like you've demonstrated that, like last year Spotify included you in the list of las colombianas, and like that, I feel like that's a great recognition of like you are on the right path. And years later found your current love, right? And you are writing the music that you want. You're putting in. Also, you mentioned something really important about your grandmother and your dad and your family. The values that they have, they're like close to their heart. And I feel like when you mentioned earlier in this conversation that you as an artist have the values of not selling yourself out, or in the sense of like not taking the easy route and just sticking
I think
to
it's more,
your,
yeah.
yeah, your gut and your passion and what your music needs. Tell me, I want to learn more about that process of you coming to that decision, because I feel in a way it's like the one step at a time journey. Since the beginning, has it always been like that as an artist? Or were you kind of, in your head going back and forth and then deciding like, no, I'm going to stick to what I am passionate about and not going the commercial route of it, and just writing
So
and singing what I love?
I think that there is never a one way when
Mm-hmm.
you, as a human being,
Yeah.
right? We we go back and forth in our thoughts and in our paths, and that's okay. I
Yeah.
feel like it's totally okay to to have an amazing day on Friday and a shitty day on Saturday, and which is, I'm actually talking about real life right now. So like how can things, how do we get to these places,
Mm-hmm.
is actually how I made that decision. And it's not because um I'm trying to explain this in a way that because I don't, it's not because I was illuminated by anything. It was honestly a mix of what I was taught about not taking the easy route.
Mm-hmm.
That's a value from my house. um el flojo trabaja doble, all these sayings that we always say.
Yes.
Right. About, if you lack here, you're gonna end up working twice there and whatever. So, and also, that pressure of doing things the right way. Now, I don't condemn absolutely
Mm-hmm.
any path. Even if you decide to be, whatever kind of reggaeton artist, or I'm putting an example, not even, I do not want to get into reggaeton because I love reggaeton. There's a lot about reggaeton that I love. But there's also a way to do things in a way that's easy, and that's a formula, and that's proven to make much more money than
Mm-hmm.
the one that I'm making. But I cannot explain in, like, how we say, in palabras cristianas, in Christian way, like why would I take that decision? For me, it's a thing of how I grew up, and
Mm-hmm.
and what my values are, what I define success to be. And a long while ago, I think I made several decisions when I was a very kid. I was a pretty wise little kid, for being so young. Now I'm amazed. Now I'm like, I wish I had more of that. Come back to my 30s, please. I would say things like, and I would write these down. I've been writing diaries since I know about writing. I always have something to write on. So I could actually look these up. Where I would write things like, I will never feel regret. And things like, um, you know, do it right once.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because for me, those teachings or lessons, have, it's been like, I haven't needed to tattoo them anywhere physically, because they're like ingrained in who I am and in what I value about myself. And whenever I've come to the toughest places, or to make decisions that are far beyond anything that I've ever thought I've had to make, then suddenly these things come back, and I remember, this is who you are. So that is what I've held on
Mm-hmm.
in the toughest of situations. My music is a reflection of that, and there's just not much more that I could really dig into, but to because I'm still digging into
Yes.
whatever I'm gonna be. I don't know yet, but but I did learn that one day at a time is the key, because um Love is something that I can't explain. I can't tell you that it's about, finding the love of your life. It's not. I think it's about growing in love and being in love with who you are and what the present can be for you. If you can get to a place where love represents how you act, how you react, right? If that's the initial part, that initial fire, that ignition that really gets you to put on the mic, to record yourself, even if you're scared of hearing your own voice, to writing down those lyrics, even though they don't make sense at the time, but working on them again and again, and trying to add chords even though you can't play the keyboard, that is far more honest than having all the skills. Because having all the skills or having, crazy talent cannot guarantee that you're going to connect with people.
Mm-hmm.
The most amazing artists, or at least the most amazing musicians, technical musicians that I know, are the people that are most disconnected, because I feel like they've honed their art in such a way that they've forgotten what the purpose of that was. And this is where Soul comes in. Okay, if you have watched Soul, the Disney
Yes.
movie, I love quoting this because, oh God, I loved how they got into it with jazz. I am a jazz musician. I studied jazz. I love it, but I hate it. I hate the toxic culture around it, and I hate um, the things that I've had to witness in this culture. So,
Mhm.
um, and I don't mean the beauty of jazz. I mean like how people
Yes.
connect around it. Like there's this other stuff there, but we'll unpack that later. The point is, it, I feel like if you're gonna be making music and if you're really gonna push forward in your art, if you're from India, if you're from Australia, if you're from Colombia, from Austria, for whatever, there has to be something about it that is actually authentic and honest. And what is authentic? What is being genuine?
Mm-hmm.
These are words that nobody can explain to me. And I ask myself what that means a lot, because that is the only thing that I feel like I can give. I feel like what I give is authentic and genuine, but I can't explain what that is for you, because that is only what it means for me. You
Yes.
see what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, it's something that is honest. It comes from that ignition. It comes from that place of like this very pure area. But it's not, untouched by the world. Okay, it's influenced
Yes.
by who you've been, where you've walked. It's influenced by the people you talk to, by this conversation we're having today. And I might finish a song because I'm feeling inspired right now, so that's cool. It's like, it's one of those things that it happens because these connections are possible. And that music for me became a medium that was more important than anything. And I think that that's what makes me an artist, not because I get on stage, not because I write songs, not because of, but because of what it inspires me to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that is that it can't be taught.
Yes. I think, is it something you're born with? It's something that it's in your spirit, I guess. Like,
I mean, I don't want to go into if you can learn it, because when I say taught, I mean I can't teach it. You got to kind of self-learn it. You see
you
what I'm
got to
trying to
live
say?
it. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's not like
Yeah.
it's not learnable. Yeah, no. Of course, everything's learnable, but I can't teach it to you. Is
Yes.
what I'm trying to say. I can show
Yes.
you what I've done and how I've done some stuff, and hopefully that'll inspire things in you. But it'll inspire something in you that is completely different, innate, beautiful, authentic, that is your authentic.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's authentic.
Yeah, and I feel like from what, going into from what you're giving us, right, through your definition, your feeling of authentic and being genuine is, I think it goes back to you following your gut, you listening to your gut. And like, if it's some, if it's not, going well with your gut, I feel like you wouldn't,
Yeah.
put it out there.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. There's got to be a compromise there, between what you want to inspire,
Mm-hmm.
what you actually are feeling, and who you are, I guess, in a broad sense of what all of that is. In music, there are many ways to go about it. Music, just like anything, can be a formula as well. It is very easy to put two and two together and make this thing. Like I just saw it like recently. I was actually assisting a writing camp, and it's insane how these things happen. I was like in 2 days writing like hit music. Done. You know, out the oven. There you go. I hope it, makes some money. Did it make me happy? It was cool. I valued it more for the connections and for, the moments of inspiration. Would I put my name behind them? Probably not, because they don't represent what Alea represents. And that's
Yes.
just a whole nother story of what Alea is, you know. Um, this is just something that you feel that you can go through your entire life doing. I guess what I'm trying to say is, what do you back? You know, will you put your name there? Does that represent who you are?
Yes.
Does it make you feel proud? Does it make you, be able to say, yo meto las manos al fuego. I put my hands in the fire for this,
Yes.
If that is something, then that's it. That's you. That's your art. That's what you're going for. If not, then, it's okay. I mean, do it, but just don't put your name there. I'm just saying, make some money. It's okay. But but don't expect it to connect as in the same amount. We humans are a little bit weird in that sense. We have our very intense predictions. We have algorithms that predict exactly how we think, what we like, what we search for, what we buy frequently and infrequently, what our days are going to be like according to the weather, our moods, everything is predicted. What we do, or, Valentine's Day this year, because of the pandemic, then people aren't really, they're not really publishing getting together. They're publishing staying at home and selling you things to be at home and all of that stuff. And we are so predictable that we're gonna go and buy it because we need it. We're needy. We want things. We want to feel these voids. We want to, go deeper into, I don't know, whatever this pandemic means in our lives or whatever. And then the point of all of that is that we can also go the other way completely and not want that. And go rogue and decide that that's not the way we want to do it. And it's a decision. And I guess from someone who lives and works in the ad world, that's a cool thing too. At the end of the day, we do have a decision to what we listen to, what we connect to, and what really inspires us. Even if the algorithm guessed 10 times what I was going to do, that one time it didn't guess, those are for me.
Yes.
And those fans and really cool people that listen to my music, because, there are those 1% out there that listen to random things, is because we're looking for something bigger, not predicted. And I don't know. I ranted.
No, I love it. I love it. I love that because we're going deeper into this, and something that I appreciate in our conversations when we, go deeper into who you are and then just your way of thinking, which I always appreciate, you being so open with me today. That's what I love about doing it. Yes. And this is where I, como estamos diciendo, pongo mis manos al fuego and I put my name behind this. Like, I get it. And you said something that was like, boing, like really like interested me. Okay. I want to know like who really is Alea, because you were saying that, Alea is a certain type of artist who also loves, and I want to make it into, I want to go back into that soul and about, because I also saw it and I was like, I was having a crisis during that day. I was like, wait, what? As everyone
cried.
Yes.
Like an hour after. I was like, oh my God. So it's okay.
And I want to go deeper into that. How did you choose Alea to be the artist that you are today, and really, pulling these sounds that you love and these genres and creating the sound that Alea gives to the world and to me?
I think I wanted uh como un amuleto. How do we say amuleto? Like a
Like Lucky Charm.
yeah,
Lucky Charm.
yeah, an object or a name, something that represented exactly that, and that that gave me strength. That was like a representation of who I was, who I am, who I want to be, and all of those things together, you know, is this persona that comes on stage and is resilient and is strong and is vulnerable and is, you know, in love with life and is completely transparent. What is on stage is what you get, but that I can also leave when I need to and just be Maria Alejandra and do my thing. Because as an artist, I felt that trying to go really deep into these connections and to all these things, you can really lose yourself in these moments. And when I mean lose yourself, is the emotions can get so much, and they are very, very overwhelming. And it's kind of a way to be able to do your music, but step away from it for a second and be like, okay, I just want to go eat ice cream today. Let's go do that. You know, because this is all really
Yes.
intense talk. Like we've been talking about some really deep stuff. And it was kind of my strategy with myself, you know, to be able to box all of that into Alea and then at the same time be like, ooh, okay, time to go do something completely different today.
Different. Yes.
Right? Not in a way of running, but I guess to give myself a chance to be able to do it because I'm very sentimental. Oh my God. My mom, when I was growing up, she was like, oh my God, Maria Alejandra, you cannot be this sensitive. She was literally, she would say stuff like that to me. I was like 10 and crying, and she'd be like, girl, seriously, why? And I was like, they were making fun of me, mom. She'd be like, okay, you know, but did you like kick him back or something? What'd you do? And I was like, no, because I didn't want to kick him. She's like, no, next time you kick him. I was like, man, my mom. And it's funny because I couldn't separate my feelings from my being, from my everyday thing, and from, you know, working. And I guess if I wanted to be serious about it, I wanted to call it something, and that's how Alea came to be. Now, you're gonna laugh. It came in a very interesting way. It wasn't like, oh, I just got, you know, like highlighted one day and like, oh, Alea came to me. It was like, no, think I'd been searching for something like this for years. Now, there's something you gotta know about me. Now, this is the sensitive artist, blah, blah, but I'm also super cynical on my other side, and I'm also completely entrepreneur, like on my other. Like I can be very cold and like completely, you know, to the point. Now, these two sides co-live. I'm a Libra. It just happens. It's part of me. I've learned to accept it. I can be in both places, and it's okay. But for all of that, for that balance to happen, it's taken a lot of deconstructing, a lot of letting go, a lot of shedding. And I had to kind of get to Boston, live stupid, completely, you know, crazy situations to get into a place where I found this name. Now, I was dating a guy, French, for those who know me and are listening. Anyway, there was a lot that was going on in this relationship that was toxic and that wasn't okay, you know, and that I allowed things to happen that weren't okay, you know, abuse and things that mentally, physically were not okay. And I kept, you know, we all go through this once in a life, you know, where you're just going back and forth into this thing, and it's just really te está acabando por dentro, you know. It's like just it's really just little by little kind of dimming you. And one day I just bought a plane ticket. No, actually, wait. The story is I bought two plane tickets because he was so kind to come with me, and then
Okay.
he acted like a jerk, and then I left by myself. So that was me being brave.
Yes.
so, I left, and I ended up staying at a friend's house in Florida. And a lot of these thinking, and then of course he calls to say he's sorry. There's, you know, that this is always gonna happen. Oh, you listening out there, always gonna call, say they're sorry. Jesus, why?
No.
Don't. They're not. Okay. So they're sorry, blah, blah, blah. And he starts telling me this story. And he's trying to be super slick here and tell me this story about this girl that comes from this other place. But and he's basically trying to narrate my story in a very cosmical way.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the cynical part. See, I love it. And then and he gets to this story, and then he ends the story with her name is Alea, and everything else that he talked about, I was like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
But Alea, I was
But
like, why did you say Alea? And he's like, isn't that what your mom calls you? And I just started cracking up. This is how ridiculous the entire thing could be. It's this person who has hurt you in multiple ways, right? Is telling you again to get back together with him. Okay,
mm-hmm.
fine. And then he's telling you all this bullshit story, blah, 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 blah. And then he says this one thing that's supposed to be super profound and in connection to who you are because he gets, he's very smart like that. He's going to try to call me what my mom calls me. Well, guess what? Guy French, so he can't pronounce the J. My mom calls me Aleja. Okay. And he couldn't do it. No, he couldn't even do that right. I loved it. And I hung up the phone, whatever. But I loved the name Alea. Like, it just kept sounding. Something about those 4 letters just really stuck. And I kept thinking about it. And then I started researching what it meant in Hebrew, in Swahili, and it's also the beginning of a lot of things. So it's elevation, it's aleatorio. It comes from
Yes.
things that are random but like coincide. There's a lot of meaning behind Alea, and it's actually a really popular name in the other side of the world, and that's basically how that came to be. I
Yeah,
kind of chose it, and I love that story because it's
it's
beautiful
so
and pathetic,
beautiful.
but I love it.
No, I love it. And I think it's so real because that happens. We're in a moment of bravery, we leave, and then a moment of weakness, and then something golden happens, right? It's like, and then you make it yours. You take ownership of that.
Oh yeah, but don't get about it. I went back with him. Yeah, when I get back, and it took me about another 2 years to stop being an idiot. I'm like, for everyone out there, this is real.
This
This
is
is a
real.
story. It took me about 2 years to finally leave Boston and get to New York and understand that that wasn't worth my time and that I was worth so much more. That story, along with a few others of abusive people, men specifically, as a woman in the music industry where you are completely objectified. Yes, if we're
Mhm.
objectified and everything else in music, we are objectified. Okay, this is a stand there and look pretty kind of a situation.
Mhm.
You just do what you got to. You just stand there and sing and look pretty. You're good. Kind of stuff. So breaking out of all those molds and kind of forgiving myself for all the situations I kind of allowed. And I'm saying allowed because it's not that I didn't have. It's not that I couldn't do anything about it, but I didn't know what to do about it at the time.
Mhm.
Now, oh my God, now I've got some, how you te haces discursos en la cabeza when you meet that person again?
Yes.
And I got a bunch of those up there. I'm like, when I see you again,
Oh, you'll get a mouthful from me.
yeah, you're going to get a mouthful. This is what's going to happen next time. But, next time's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But that strength that you developed, that new found word about those words that now define this part of you and that won't let they're like an escudo, they're this
Mhm.
barrier, and now they really defined Alea and who I was going to be in my music. It was like, okay, I absolutely adore all of this, but I do not like this part about me where I permit and allow these people to step over me or to do these things or to abuse physically, emotionally, professionally. I mean,
Mhm.
it was such an amount of situations at the moment that I kind of broke into this moment. And I was being very hard on myself, like, how did I let all this happen? And why, this other guy and this other director completely humiliated me, and this other thing happened, and this blah, 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 and this other guy completely, like, almost did. Thank God I ran, whatever.
Yeah.
All these things. And I was being so hard, like crying again. Oh my God, why did I do this? And then this part of me and my mom comes in. I mean, she didn't really, but like in my head. And I was like, girl, why are you crying? You know, like,
Your mom came
okay,
back.
mom came back just like in her persona. And and I remembered this word that I was called when I was little. And I remembered how much I hated being called that word because everybody did it. My grandmother, my mom, my sisters. Ay, María sí es alborotada. Ay, niña, tú sí eres alborotada. You know, like everybody would say it. And I was just being me. I was just being free. I was just being expressive, you know, and making choices about pink or red or purple or black or anything. And apparently my choices were too much for everybody. And and I kept kind of trying to not be so much unless I was on stage.
Hmm.
And then that got me thinking, wait, why am I like trying to only be a Lea on stage? Like what is happening with who I am? And why have I allowed so many people to decide or to make me question myself about my decisions? I think I'm done. So I started writing a verse, and it was actually that first verse of Alborotada. It goes like, y me decían alborota, pero alboroto es el que yo propongo, que se pongan pilas, mis compadres que vinimos a sonar, a levantar las voces que callan los golpes, y al prejuicio mi mujer en la mirada alzar, que somos más, que mi color no te asuste, que tanto sabor no te abrume, caderona mulata, echa fuego lento, en el desierto satisfecho está la libertad, pa. Y guerra es la que voy a dar. Alborota, alborota, alborota. Is rare when I can say that I've written a song from top to bottom like that.
Hmm.
And that was because I was so angry. Thankfully, expression through music has really allowed all these emotions to flourish in a, positive and productive way. But to give more, like alborota was my own way of saying I am not an alborotada how you say. I'm an alborotada how I say. And alborotada means this for me. It means being independent. It means being resilient. Yes, I am rowdy, but because I have a voice and I want to use it. So all of that has a purpose. And that is all Alea. So I cannot not be that. And if y'all have a problem with that, thank God New York is huge.
Yes. And we're in the pandemic, so.
And we're independent and I make my money. So bye. And this whole attitude that had always lived in me, but I was always kind of toning down, decided to stop being unapologetic. I decided to, incomodar.
Mm-hmm.
I decided that I needed to take up my space and that I needed to say what I said. I decided to not be like all nice in interviews, because I would get interviewed by like men and be like, oh, but you're like a feminist and like all asking me all these things. And I'm like, yeah. And they'd be like, yeah, but that's like kind of your problem, because women, blah, and oh, believe me, you get interviewed in Colombia, you get some questions. But I've learned to be such a diplomat. I love it. I'm like, yeah, and guess what? It involves you too, because I'm assuming, this argument. I love this argument because everybody uses it, and at some point, I wished it wasn't the same argument, but it's like, because your mom, right? And your sister, and I'm assuming you have a daughter at this point, right? So all of them right now are being accosted. What are you going to do about it? So it doesn't involve you. So this is something where I've learned to use my voice to speak about things that I didn't even know I could speak about before. Getting into even more deep, I discovered I was a feminist. And discovered, I mean, I've always been a feminist, but I was really scared of that word because te inculcan a pensar que ser feminista es malo. They really make you think that being a feminist is bad.
The
That
internal misogyny
it's
that
punk.
Mm-hmm.
Or, whatever, punk was bad too, right? I love punk, so
Oh,
no. So that all changed for me when I started desmitificando. Ooh, English and Spanish just like crossed. Demystifying all these words that were, I started like, putting my brain out and being like, okay,
laying it flat.
feminist is not bad. Let's put it back here. Alborota is not bad. Okay. Incomodar. that's actually a good thing.
Let's
Like,
put it back.
and actually, checking things off. My light should be broad. Let's listen more to this, and one thing at a time. So I started adding to those values, those that I wrote when I was little. I started
Mhm.
adding more stuff, and that has been more important than the music. And this is why, because you should be prepared for your art. You should hone your skills, study, be disciplined, be intense, be obsessive, but don't go about it without knowing who you are. Don't go about it without knowing you can back all of that with something that makes sense, with something that's bigger than you.
Mhm.
Because if not, then what is the point of anything?
Exactly. Wow. I love this. I love this because I love how you were like, okay, you're basically, two women here, right? And then you're saying, I can go to the stage and bring all of this and be Alea. And then when I need to be ready and desprenderme de ella, I can go back and be
Yeah,
Maria
because Alea
Alejandra.
also needs a manager. That's
And
not.
Alea, yes. But
Alea's really cute, but Alea can handle money.
I love it. And
Yeah.
but I love that you're taking like just great characteristics of who Alea is, and you decided to take ownership that into your own life. And was it also helpful? From what you're saying, yes, I guess physically leaving Boston and going to New York City. I think that was also a great, like, that was a push, right? The necessary push for you to like really take ownership of that and just be who you are and then be unapologetically yourself and
I
como
think
that.
I think Boston was a very romantic idea of music, and I loved it.
Mhm.
Berkeley should keep doing what they're doing. They're an incredible school, and they really put their money where their mouth is. They really
Mhm.
have that I could say that they back, and it's beautiful. There's some amazing people. There is an amazing community there. But it's great when you're 17 and 18 and 19. By then I was already like 25, and I was like done. I was like, the real world out
Sure.
there
Yes.
isn't like Boston. And what I mean by that, not Boston, the city, I mean Boston, Berkeley, because you feel like it's one thing when you're a student there. Um, Boston is an amazing place, and I so many people that I love, the communities, the Colombian communities, the Latin communities. Um, One of my best friends, I met her there. Elisa, she actually directed Echale Sal. Um, and she was my first roommate. Picked me up at the airport with like 3 huge bags. Like, oh my god, what did I just do? But Boston was reminded me too much of my hometown.
Hmm.
There was too much of cuddling and babying, and there was a lot of protection. And you can live with that, but it gave me the same feeling of I need to get out of here from the first one. See what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yes.
Like,
Hmm.
there's something that I don't know, right, about this. Also, there wasn't enough gigging and performing, and that's what I wanted to keep working on. So I ended up moving to New York. Not extremely o sea, ¿cómo te lo pongo? I was really scared of New York. Like, I came to New York to gig because I started working with Folklore Urbano Orchestra, and they were incredible. It was amazing. I would come here like, it started being like once every 2 months, and then it started being like every month, and then every week. So at some point it stopped making sense to keep paying rent in Boston, and not be here. But I had to finish my lease, and my graduation was in May. So I wanted to be there for it. So I ended up staying an extra 6 months after I finished, well, 5 months after I finished school, in Boston. And during that time, I got to live Boston without being a student, kind of, So
Hmm.
that really showed me what was going on there. And it really kind of pushed me to look and to not fear New York in a way. And then I ended up getting here and having nothing, una mano adelante y otra atrás, como decimos, literal, owing my first rent. Like, how the hell was that going to happen? Well, I got a job at a coffee shop across the street. Um, I looked for babysitting jobs. I connected with every human I knew here and was like, I'm in New York. Here are my resumes. Somebody get me a job. I'm just kidding. But it was very, it was, I was very, there was a lot of strength in me to like
Yes.
figure it out. Also because, well, I had a year or less than a year actually. I can't remember, but I had like, because you have to do the OPT thing after you do study
Mm.
as an international student. Um, and anyway, it ended up all working out. But New York threw me in situations that were hard, but there was always this growth.
Mm-hmm.
It was like doing 3 masters. It was like I feel like New York was doing Berkeley 5 times because there was an amount of realness that you cannot find under all your
Yes.
teachers, and being all nice and cuddled there. Here it was, if someone wants to charge you, or if they told you that they were going to pay you 500, but they ended up paying you 100, how are you about to go to that situation? And how are you going to deal with everybody so that you don't end up kicked out of the place or whatever? Or situations that are really intense and then at the same time beautiful, like finding an entire community of crazy inspiring people that want to do exactly that. I found a bunch of alborotados all in one place. It was amazing. Everybody wanted to be their own thing and I loved it. It was like, no, people were just not scared of anyone. They just wanted to be free spirited. Now of course there's a lot of hypocriteness or hypocriticalness. Did I say that
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Around all of that, there's New Yorkers that are not like that, or they pretend to be or whatever. But I found really good ones, and that really inspired my journey. Finding other amazing Latinx artists in this town that right now I like admire deeply and are some of my best friends that I go to, and that we found how to support each other in such a hostile but at the same time bright place. Is New York is a contrast, is completely a contrast, and it just fit, I think, me too. And it's weird because I love it and I also hate it. It's, you have to, if you're a New Yorker, I guess it's kind of part of the deal.
Of living
To
there.
love it, hate it. But I've found that, and I've really found that here the exposure to culture, to that when people they teach you about being tolerant and
Yeah.
respectful, it doesn't get as real as when you get to New York. um I learned that growing up, but I
Mm-hmm.
mean, can you do it with someone who doesn't believe the same thing and is actually riding the train with you? you know can you
Yeah.
do it with the person you are about to work with in the restaurant, and has these completely different things than you? It really doesn't get as material as material as that. And that's what I loved about New York. It really puts you behind your word of who you are. It takes out the worst in people and it takes out the best.
Yes. Yeah.
Damn. That was some realness there. I'm just like impressed
Yes.
about what I'm just saying right now because it's like, wow.
I'm
I
like,
love New York.
I'm like saying in my head, I'm like, oh, iconic, love this. Yes, this is like, I want it like this or this right here. Like, I'm in love. Like, just knowing that you were able to connect and find these people who are now your friends and like part of your life. And like in the past 5 years, you were able, I guess because you were surrounded by another alborotados and like just being unafraid of being, yourself and themselves. Like have you seen that? Like looking back, you're like, I've been with surrounded by the right people, the right friends, just being myself and like owning who you are and just seeing those experiences of being with other singers and artists and being recognized by your work and just saying like, again, one step at a time, but also like seeing all that work, all that love that you put into it, like it happened, right? Like, do you really
I
now
feel it.
during, yeah, this
I see it.
quarantine, you see
You
it?
know what? I grew up being such an awkward kid that, like, I grew up being made fun of because my hair was curly. Being in an Afro Indigenous country
Mm-hmm.
where people do not accept they're Afro Indigenous, though.
Yes.
Um, I mean, there's a whole conversation there, but I'm just remembering growing up and feeling so awkward in so many places, at school, in the classroom, then in Medellin. In Medellin, I would get made fun of in the street for my hair. I never felt beautiful like people feel. Like I felt beautiful. I was like, because I'm, because
Yes.
I'm like I'm beautiful. Who cares? Like all that. But no, I didn't feel like revista kind. I didn't feel like I was a magazine. Nah, never. I always felt awkward, and I kind of honed it. I loved my punkness. I loved that it was part of my rebellious part not to be beautiful like that. And I just decided to do with what I got. What cards I was given, that's what I was playing, and that was beautiful. But when I came to New York, I found so many other awkward, cool people that didn't have any explaining to do, didn't care about what you were thinking of them, and that kind of changed my own perspective of what I was fighting for as well.
Hmm.
Okay, what I'm trying to say is, I think growing up like that, and then going to Boston and all of that, you kind of just you're just so used to it that when I got to New York, I didn't have to be like that. I didn't have to be guarded.
Hmm.
I didn't have to not look because they were looking. I didn't have to, I mean, of course you do, but I mean, with your people. Um, there was another level of freedom that just really changed even what I was writing about, because I think I finally was able to take the attention of these other things and kind of realized also, oh, wait, but that was not right. I didn't know. Oh, I grew up like that. Oh, wait. Oh, I was awkward. It's like I kind
Yeah.
of started giving more attention to a whole nother topic, and that really made it for me. I think I'm just really grateful to like all of that, because today, yeah, I am a bit of all that collection that
Yes.
that I'm trying to portray or trying or making or being, but it's bigger than yourself, and that's beautiful. The fact that you're not beautiful like that, you're not represented like that. Oh,
Hmm.
okay, I want to be an artist, which is this was my conversation with myself when I was like 10 or 12. I was like, oh, really want to sing, but like not like that. I would see like contests like um I forget the name. American Idol, and I'd be like,
Hmm.
oh, I love that. I love the being on stage. I love the performance, but I didn't want that. See what I'm saying?
Yes.
The that mainstream intense. I love the glitter, but just I don't know how to explain it. Like there was this whole
It didn't
fakeness
connect with you. It
around.
wasn't with your gut, right? It
Yeah,
wasn't tied to that.
and
Yeah.
yeah, I just didn't want to participate in like contests and all these things. Like I think I did it like once or twice, and there was a lot of pressure there, and it was that was it for me. But that really proved that part of doing things differently.
Hmm.
You know, I guess just having those real honest conversations with yourself. What do you want? I guess. Does that make sense? Do you feel represented in that? Do we even ask ourselves that? I don't know. But I didn't feel represented by like the media.
Yes. Yeah. That's a question that you know I asked myself. Obviously, my skin color is white, so living through some of what privileges and then going to Mexico, but I didn't see the was that what media is telling us. It's not being represented to us and to myself and to my family, which is I think why I also started AES. And it's like we as Latinas have so many different stories, backgrounds, upbringings, cultures. Like we are so different from one another, and like I really hope that with each conversation a listener can feel that representation, that like, yeah, that's me, that's how I was growing up, or that's where I'm going. That's the whole point of
I think that's what you're doing. I
yeah.
mean,
And
the fact that you're giving voice and exposure to artists like myself, that is huge. And not because because it's funny because I never grew up knowing I was of color. That's
mhm,
interesting. Like I
until
didn't know
yeah, that's
until I
yeah.
came here. And now they're like, "So you're Hispanic, Afro, Indigenous?" I was like, Well, my social studies teacher told us that we were conquered, and and
Yeah.
it's very interesting to come here and kind of have to define yourself that way and know yourself as a minority and see where you're standing in a political
Yeah.
stanza. Where are you standing?
Hmm.
What's your area? How big is it? How much power do you have?
Yes, in this country, and yeah.
um, and that really, that awareness really makes you do things like right, and
Hmm.
make this amazing podcast and kind of know where we're lacking and
Hmm.
where things have been for so long. It's so boring. It's time to give voice to others. I think that it's not only diversifying the conversation, I hate that, but I love diversifying the conversation because it gives us a place at the table.
Yeah.
It gives us a really honest chance um, to strive, at least to fight for it.
Yeah. And I like to think I don't know, personally, like I don't want that table anymore. I want to create my own table, with people that connect with me, that people who
I like
share the
that.
same values as me, right? That who it's like I don't want your table anymore. Like I'm creating a table that I love and that the women that are sitting here are so much better than the people that are like in sitting at that table that's like we were never invited
We
to.
created
So
our own world, people. We
yeah,
out here creating our own world. Bye.
bye. I don't need your
I love it.
invitation.
Listen, what you're saying is super important. Um, it's a mix of feelings because the conversation around all lives matter, which of course is completely wrong. But what I'm trying to
Yes.
say about that is I understand where people suddenly feel excluded where they've never been excluded before. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
People suddenly see that the light isn't shining on them as bright as it used to be. There's like something to
They're like, no, I want the attention on me
the
again.
entire time. What happened? Like, wait, I was like, no, like, chill. You'll be fine. Let's just move the conversation this way. And that is something that has really kind of affected how we see ourselves
Hmm.
because now we get to have more places like these where we're creating those tables and creating those spaces. I think that's really bright. I mean, I don't know where it's going to go. Now, I've told you I'm a cynical on the other side, so there's a lot of that there.
Yes. Yeah, let's talk about that. So for our listeners, while we were emailing you, you were telling I'm also cynical, Alea, so like I get you. And you were sharing something like how, and I'm paraphrasing here, please correct me if I'm wrong. Like I think our voices have come like this. It's become very trillado, like this
Mhm.
lucky charm of like empowerment,
Totem,
like
the totem.
yeah, yes, 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 and that's something that I'm like I agree with, and I always with every conversation and every guest I try to avoid falling into, of like I and we're going back to that like word authentic, genuine, like, but I do want to demonstrate who my guest is and where they're coming from and where they're going, where they see themselves, right? So let's put cynicism here in this conversation and share with me your thoughts of like the unfortunate twist of like how our community has turned into this like totem of like, oh, lucky charm or whatever, or like this form of like empowerment that really isn't there or isn't really backed up by people
I,
that feel it.
all good.
Yeah,
I love that you bring it up. I think I was saying that it's interesting how when you're not interviewed by someone who's not Latin, um, or brown or
mhm,
black, I think the conversation turns more into who you are as a culture and not about who you are as a person.
mhm,
I love my culture and I represent it, with blood. Like I'm very proud not only of being Colombian, Latin American, Hispanic, everything. but it's also a situation where you can really be preyed on,
Mm-hmm.
and for lack of better words, you can really be preyed on for it. I think my first um encounter was that boyfriend,
Mm-hmm.
because he was white as hell
In French. So it was,
and entitled and arrogant.
yes.
Okay. And
And an asshole.
asshole, but all good. Um, but the reason why I bring it up is because he wasn't in love with me. He was in love with the idea
Mm-hmm.
of me, a Latin, brown, different smelling, different aging, different looking person that he hadn't dated before. And there was this mystery around that. There was nothing mysterious about me. I was this girl who had just arrived from another place, was really confused in a lot of areas. But there was no mystery real behind it. Now, this story that he had created really, I think, blocked him from really getting to know me, and
Mm-hmm.
really, I don't know, whatever his vision is or whatever. But that repeats itself in different situations, like being at a job where you're the only brown person, or
Mm-hmm.
you know um, knowing that everybody in the kitchens are gonna be Latinos,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing that, like, it's cool because, like, I already know that. So whenever I get to like a show, I'm always like, "Hey, shout out to la cocina," stuff like that, because they're like the best. And I'm like, "Esta ranchera va para mi gente," ¿me entiendes? because because we are in the dark in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
areas. But now it's become really cool to talk about us in a way that is going to be uncomfortable for us for a while. And this is where my cynicism comes, because I have to kind of be okay with this. I don't want to, because it's not cool
Mm-hmm.
that for I don't know how many years you've been ignoring me. You know, you've been not giving me my place. You've been doing it. And now all of a sudden, you think we're good
Mm-hmm.
and it's cool to do that. And I kind of have to be okay with it for a second, just because I want more people to be given that space.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. It implies you educating in a way that is not educating. It implies you being a diplomat without being unreal. It implies a lot of patience with people,
Mm-hmm.
because they're going to say stupid shit, offensive stuff that they're not going to be able to take back. I'm not saying I take it, because I don't. I call out whenever I need to call out. But honestly, it's not their 100% fault. I mean all their fault. I mean, like, our friends now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
They grew up here. It's what they know. It's what they were used to. It's what they were taught. All of that is understandable. So when I mean, take a little bit of it, is also being understanding and empathetic to that. I don't like being a radical. I've never been like the kind of a person that is either, white or black. For me, it's always a situation of where the story is and how can we make this work. Because I'm a pacifist in that way, but I'm not an idiot. So it doesn't, it doesn't allow you to abuse whatever space or moment of doubt I'm giving you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm trying to say. So here's to a little bit of that. Being a totem implies that they want to include you in more festivals. People want you to be in this other thing. They want you to speak because finally there's two Latinas speaking about feminism. No, there's more. There's like way more. But what I
Yeah.
mean is, before there wasn't a space in the mainstream for it. Now it's a little bit cooler because it's like edgy. You see?
Yeah.
So it makes them look edgy and legit to have us there. Thank God, I guess. But at the same time, that's not cool. You see what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
No, and I understand because you, as an artist, you're okay. Invite me because opportunities will
Mm-hmm.
come my way, and more people will know your music, right? And
Yeah,
but
and I'll be
also
able to at some point recommend and open up spaces for others, which is what I
exactly.
try to do a lot. just
Yeah.
because it makes me feel less dirty.
And and going back to, our earlier comments of like, building our own table, sometimes I I know I said that and I'm not going to back on that, but like I know it's also important to take ownership of the table that was before
Hmm.
so we can invite more of us into that table and
Maybe
that
change it
space.
up a bit, you know. Maybe it's
Yeah.
not gonna be square anymore.
Yeah, and I
I'm down to
definitely,
completely breaking it out.
yeah. And I get that. And I also get the frustration of how people, when they're interviewing you or they're wanting to get to know you or invite you to a place because they look, oh, I'm being representative of blah blah blah, they don't know you on through an individual level. And I think for me that's the most important thing, knowing a person in an individual level, and really you're learning where they come from, and what makes them dumb, and like take and then cry or like be passionate about what they do. And but I love that you take it as it is, but also do not accept bullshit and shit, and you call it out.
Yeah. It's when I started writing Alborotada, the album, and I was asked to like, because you have to like make copies for it and actually like, write a bio, a story behind it. There's all these things, and I was choosing what to say about it.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I got to female representation, Latinx empowerment, was because I accepted that. I understood that I had a part to play in this.
Mm-hmm.
And you either go play your part and do it with all those values intact, with you backing yourself up, or you get out of the conversation and, do something else. But I decided to take part of the conversation, even though I didn't know what I was going to say completely. But I decided to do it, to be
Mm-hmm.
there, to present myself, to stand there for now while others get to do it more in other places as well. And I think that collective power is what's actually going to change for us things. Yes, people are finally understanding that all these people that represent like half of this country
Mm-hmm.
that can't vote, you know, they have a lot of power. And that's why they're getting more into the conversation. That's what they're accessing benefits. That's why they're finally opening up doors to this and that. Because all those people, a lot of them had kids who now have papers, who
Yes.
vote and are changing the state of this country, which is amazing and beautiful, and I love it. But they didn't see it coming.
No. Yes.
Esas semillitas, they didn't see that coming, and that was beautiful. I love how this entire thing has kind of panned out in a
Yeah.
way, and that is the reason why this album comes, this music comes, and all this message comes, is because I see that. And what is my place in that? Is am I just gonna stay here and not talk about them? Am I gonna stay here and not talk about all the women that I know that have been abused, that have happened, about my grandmother and everything that she went through, about the silences, about no, there are stories to tell, and there are stories that need to thrive in time so that others can hear them and hopefully create
Mm-hmm.
more, and then take up more space and do more. I think that's the only purpose of behind everything. The whole Latinx representation, the be a female feminist representative or whatever, is kind of taking ownership of, yes, that's who I am. Thank you for stating the obvious. Also, because in our own countries, we don't have that.
Yeah.
We don't understand that. We've been so colonialized and so whitenized
Mm-hmm.
that I just totally made that word up. But like,
But seriously, yes, that's we've been so
yeah, but
white.
in a way that we don't think of ourselves as black or
Mm-hmm.
Latin or indigenous or stuff. We completely shun our own indigenous communities.
Mm-hmm.
It's wrong. And we don't represent our women when they're raped, and we don't fight for them enough. So how can we that are here in the United States do our job by representing the people here, and then
Mhm.
also making sure that the message gets there,
Yes.
because there's a lot to change. There's a lot that actually needs to be worked out right now. And to be part of that conversation here, there, and like everywhere, but like for real, it's something that really keeps me up at night. Is how can I do more?
Mhm.
Because when I was growing up, I didn't see that. That's what I'm trying to say. Is that
Yes.
I didn't more than the singer that looked like me, it was the singer that acted like what I want to do. I didn't
Yeah.
see that. That I didn't get to see that like badass director that wrote, directed, produced, worked. I didn't see that growing up. Give or take, I didn't see much growing up, but I'm trying to put it into perspective here. They weren't as out there. Now we're getting more spaces.
Mhm.
So how can we not use the space to use our voice to represent others? It doesn't make sense. We got to
Doesn't
do
make
it.
sense. We have to. It's an obligation. I see it as a not an obligation, but like a push. Like we have to. Like.
I feel this collective fire, Brenda, like for real. Like somebody was telling me a while ago. Actually, I was asked this at an interview. Because now it's apparently it's in to write about feminism, right? And to write songs about all these things. And it is. There are people that are riding the wave, and it's totally cool. But there are people that are doing it collectively and completely simultaneously and completely spontaneously because they're feeling it.
Mhm.
There is an honesty behind all this that is happening because it comes in waves. Feminist waves have come in different ways. It comes, it goes back down, it comes, it goes back down, bang the light, get back down. But this time, something is different. And not only do we have social media to back us and like all these new outlets to talk about who we are and what we're telling, but also because there are many different types of feminism.
Mhm.
Because feminism means whatever it means to you. Now, I don't want to undermine this because feminism is a study, and this is a very real, legit, um, social, psychological, sociological phenomenon. But because the majority of the people don't really know that,
You're just discovering it. Yeah.
they're just discovering that this is something that speaks to them
Mhm.
from their kitchens, from their Netflix movies, from just, researching online. And it's affecting how they speak, how they accept jobs, how they say yes or no, how
Mhm.
they speak about consent. Like, consent? That's new. Damn, I didn't grow up, nobody taught me about consent. I mean, my mom just said kick him. you know? But consent? That's new. And that's changing our reality.
Mhm.
And I think that all of that, huge part of all of that, is that there are more and more artists like you and I creating spaces, creating music, and not riding waves because it's cool, but because we have to.
Mhm.
We feel this social connection, this fire that something is going to happen and is happening.
It's happening. Yes.
Yeah. And not seeing that is just so blind. This is going to be called something in
Yeah.
2050. It's going to be called something, I'm telling you.
Alea, I love this. You knowing that fire that pushes you forward and taking ownership of being unapologetically yourself. And it's been a journey of a one step at a time and shedding and being surrounded by people that love you, that support you, that want to see you grow, that have been part of your growth. Knowing what you know now, like I'm remembering, that little girl that you shared with me today of people will make fun of your hair, of how you looked. What would you tell that little girl? Maria Alejandra, knowing what you know now and living through what you went through, what would you say?
I would say to just wipe out the tears because she's beautiful. She's got nothing to hide. Pigtails can go whenever she's ready to, and it'll be at her time when she's ready. And I find myself really lucky to be able to say that I don't regret anything, not even the bullying,
Mm-hmm.
because even though it was external, um, I feel like all of that has really made me very strong-willed. I have no idea who can I attest that to. I wish I want to say it's my mom, my grandmothers. I attest it to like I give it to every single woman that's been behind me because I feel like they deserve the credit. Hay una brujería ahí muy fuerte, yo no sé. Like
Matriarcado. Oh my gosh. Like,
there's
yeah.
matriarcado muy fuerte, un matriarcado. You know, there is a strength that I cannot just say, oh, you know, it's just because I was, you know, cool and stuff when I was a kid. No, I don't know. Maybe this girl already spoke to that one and said it's all good. You keep doing that, but um, I'm very lucky, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm very privileged to say something like that today because I know so many others that didn't get that, and damn, that's what I'm fighting for, I guess.
Yes.
Thanks for those questions, Brenda. It's amazing.
Thank you for this conversation. I loved it. I loved it. And I think I'm
Like,
going to say,
yes, man.
like, has been my longest conversation on it. Yes. And I love it. Like, we went deep. And I hope that my listeners, I know them. Like, they're loving this. And because I'm loving this. And I hate to end it, but like, you're a busy woman. And I want you to enjoy your Sunday.
It's all good. It's all good. I love spending my Sunday like this. Believe me, I don't do it for every reporter, media news outlet out there. But when I heard a yes for real, like I was like, yeah, you and I, that's gonna happen.
Yes, that like, oh my gosh, like that means so much. That means so much because every step I've been putting my love, my heart, my soul, my fire into this, and hearing
It
you say
shows.
that,
It shows, Brenda. Like for real, it's everything that we've been talking about. This whole purpose thing. That's what it shows, and that's what AAS stands for. For me, it's an honor to be part of that conversation. Like for real, and
thank you.
for every other AAS that's been
Yeah.
on this incredible podcast. This is one. This is making history. You know,
In
like
2050, when these conversations are gonna come back and they're gonna see, what we weren't seeing, when we were little,
yeah,
they're gonna have. Alea, for our listeners who want to follow you, want to listen to your music, want to grab a little cafecito and listen to Aire Guajiro, where can they follow you? Where can they listen?
definitely. To everyone out there listening, you can go follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at Alea Music. I'll spell that for you: ALEA Music. And go check out my iTunes. Go check out my Spotify. Follow me, subscribe on YouTube. All that is super important and is such a great way to support the artists you love. Not only because you get them out there and streams or whatever, but because it makes them understand that what they're doing means something to you. So take action. Go follow, hit that subscribe button on YouTube, Alea Music, and on Spotify, iTunes, just as Alea. You can find me with Alborota or with Aire Guajiro or with Échale Sal. Um, dig, because there's a lot of Aleas, but don't
Yeah,
worry, there's only one like me.
there's one like you.
Thank you so much, Brenda. And, you know, take a moment to listen to all my music. I'm coming out with an album this year and like in the spring. This is a really huge goal for me. I haven't made this in a light way. It hasn't been made like in a month. It's been made over months and months of opening, reopening, closing, doing, and finding what the truth means in this music. So it's coming from the really most purest place in my heart. and it's coming for you free on Spotify. So go check it
I
out
will.
soon. Subscribe so that you can be aware of when that happens. Hopefully by April 2021, but I'll announce a date very soon.
Awesome. And obviously we'll be here, amplifying your album. Like now that we have a website, I'm like, let's grow this space and let's talk more about Ellas's work and your work. And
Yes.
like, for our listeners, all of this will be in the show notes. Will be on the video on YouTube in the show notes. So you have no excuse for not listening to Alea's music and supporting
Yes.
her.
And subscribe to it. Yes. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. So you can continue this conversation by following us on Instagram at AS the podcast. That is ELLAS the podcast. We're also on YouTube as AS podcast. So you can subscribe there. And we're on LinkedIn as AS podcast. We're on TikTok as AS the podcast. If you want to be a guest here and share your story with me and our listeners, you can email me at hello@ellas-media.com. And if you like, you can follow me at Brent_Jai. That's BREN_JAI. And thank you, Alea. Thank you for being here and sharing and being so open with me. I love this. I really do love this. And I'm so honored. And, thank you for listening and being part of us, of this conversation and just listening. And you'll be hearing a new inspiring conversation in 2 weeks. Adios.
Adiós. Gracias, Brenda.
Bye.